Miraculous catch of fishes. A new day has begun. The failure of yesterday is past. Sky was growing brighter, and gentle waves lapped against the sand. Fishermen were finishing a long, hard night of work, and they were exhausted. Simon Peter and his partners had been out on the lake all night. They had thrown out their nets again and again, hoping for a good catch. But every time they pulled them back in, the result was the same: empty. No fish, no income, no success. Just tired hands and heavy hearts. As morning came, they guided their boats back to the shore. They stepped out onto the wet sand and began cleaning and mending their nets. Even though they had caught nothing, the work still had to be done. While they were working, a crowd began to gather nearby. Jesus was there, teaching the people about the kingdom of God. More and more people came, pressing in closer and closer to hear him. Soon, the crowd was right up against the water's edge. Jesus looked around and saw two boats left there by the fishermen. He stepped into the one belonging to Simon Peter. Then he asked Peter to push the boat out a little from the shore. Tired as he was, Peter agreed. He climbed back into the boat and pushed it out onto the water. Jesus sat down and began teaching the people from the boat, while Peter listened beside him, his empty nets lying at his feet. When Jesus finished speaking, he turned to Peter. Then he gave an unexpected command. "Launch into deep water," he said, and let down the nets for a catch. Peter stared at Jesus in surprise. Deep water. Now, in the middle of the day, he knew this lake. He knew when and where the fish usually came. And after working all night with nothing to show for it, this command didn't make any sense. "Master," Peter answered, "we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But at your word, I will let down the nets." Even though he didn't understand, Peter chose to trust Jesus' word more than his own experience. So they set out into deeper water again. Peter and the others lifted their nets and cast them out into the lake one more time. For a moment, everything was quiet, just the soft sound of water against the sides of the boat. Then, suddenly, the nets jerked. The ropes snapped tight in their hands. The boat rocked as something powerful pulled from beneath the surface. Peter and his friends grabbed the nets with both hands and began to pull. To their astonishment, the nets were filled with fishes. Not just a few fish, but so many that the nets started to strain and tear under the weight. They shouted to their partners in the other boat to come and help, and together they began hauling in the catch. They filled one boat. They filled the other boat. Soon both boats were so full of fishes that they began to sink down into the water. The night of empty nets had turned into a morning of overflowing blessing. When Simon Peter saw this, he realized this was a miracle by Jesus. "You are next,"